Hello everybody, welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like. Trying to hit 30k subs over here, so your subscription would be much appreciated. One of these days I'm going to say that because these videos are often recorded a day or two in advance and I've already hit it, but we're still, I think, under 28k at the time of recording. I'm recording this video about the OKC Thunder because Chet Holmgren has just agreed to a 5-year, $250 million max extension, which will be kicking in after this next season. So for the 2026-2027 season, has only played 2 years in the league, but he missed his rookie year entirely with an injury, so he is going into his 4th year on his rookie deal. And then after that, he's going to be making essentially $50 million, which is going to account for what the numbers that I saw is roughly 25% of the salary cap. So even though 50 is still a very, very high number, it is going to increasingly become not a high number. The top players in the NBA, we're not too far away from when like the best of the best guys are getting $100 million. I believe Devin Booker just signed an extension for 2 years, 150, so $75 million a year. So 50 for Chet. It could be a bargain in a way going down the line. But of course, there is also the re-signing of J-Dub that needs to happen, who also is going into the 4th year, I believe, of his rookie contract. So again, a contract that will kick in 2026, 2027. He will be getting basically the same amount of money that Chet Holmgren is, which means that they will be paying basically like $170 million a year for their big three of players, which is a lot of money. That is more money than the current salary cap. It is not more money than, pushing into the first apron, and I don't even think it doesn't push you into the second either. I think you have to go over 200 to get there. But the fact that you are already so close to $200 million for 3 players has me a little bit concerned. Now, I am planning on doing a video more in depth about the NBA salary cap and the apron rules and how I feel like it's just kind of ruining things. But the Thunder, I have been saying that they are, going to be more capable of avoiding these things than other teams have been, and that is true, but that doesn't make it any less. I mean, it does make it less of a challenge, but nevertheless, it is still a very big challenge that they are facing, one that I think they can overcome, but I am getting a little concerned. It was more of a I'm not concerned until I actually saw that contract hit, because that value for Chet after this last year's playoff run, I feel a little hesitant. I do think the positive of all of this is that after this next year, let's say Chet just breaks out and he's an all-star this year, well, then you actually probably have, like I said earlier, a bargain of a contract. If Chet is making, 2/3 of what a max contract looks like in 3 years and he's playing like an all-star, then that's great. Same goes for J-Dub. If he's making what is essentially 2/3 of the supermax by then, fair enough. That's actually not that bad. But J-Dub, I'm more confident in. J-Dub had his consistency issues. I also believe he had his 40-point game while playing through a wrist injury, so that's certainly something. But the floor of his game, I feel, is much higher than Chet's. But Chet was just so bad offensively throughout these playoffs, especially in the NBA Finals, though he was much improved in Game 7, better late than never. And though I am confident that Chet is going to be a generational defensive player throughout his career, that he is going to be one of the 5 best defenders in the NBA for the next, 7+ seasons, I feel good about that. But his offense, I have my doubts. Now, in the regular season, he was putting up really good numbers before he ended up I'm trying to remember exactly what his injury was. Okay, well, it was 9 games. Whoops. I thought it was a little bit more than that. They are essentially taking the bet that Chet is more the player that he was pre-injury in these 9 games where he averaged 18.2 points, shot 40% from 3 on 4 attempts per game, 52% from the field on 12 attempts per game, 2.9 blocks, 2.2 assists, 9.2 rebounds, 1.8 offensive rebounds. They're betting that that is the player that he is. And if he is, even if Chet capped out as like an 18 points on good efficiency guy, well, at that rate, he would still be well worth it, because you're talking about a, again, generational defensive guy who is giving you this high volume, not super high volume, but a decently volume, especially for a third option scoring. Like, that's all well and good. But from the return point for his last 22 games, he only averaged 14 points, only averaged 7.7 rebounds. I will give him this. His minutes have never been that high, which you could partly like a credit to him and say, hey, he's actually scoring even better because he's doing it in less minutes. But also, why is the guy playing less minutes? It's kind of because there's a fear of injury. It's also because they beat the shit out of other teams all the time. So that definitely factors in to lowering his minutes. But I don't know. I'm just worried about his offensive game. And if it ends up being a thing where he's just a bad offensive player, or one that is regularly struggling to be consistent in the playoffs, if that ends up being the case, that's a lot of millions. That's a lot of dollars to be paying a guy to, what did he average in the playoffs this previous year? Yeah, 15 points, still around what he did towards the end of the year, 8.7 rebounds, but less than 30% from 3. And what worries me about that is in the playoff run where he played 10 games the year before that, he shot under 30% from 3. This time 5 attempts per game on 26%. So I'm just worried about the guy's offensive game developing properly. Also, he shot 67% from 2 in that playoff run. That number dipped all the way to 55% throughout this championship run. Part of that can be attributed to just it being a longer run, but he was like especially bad in that Indiana Pacers series. Let me pull up those numbers as well while I am here. Yeah, 12 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, 39.5% from the field, went 3 for 19 from 3 overall in the series. And if I remove that final game 7 where he was so good, only 11 points, 35% from the field, and 2 for 17 from 3. So yeah, not ideal. I do give him the edge or the credit for the fact that he dealt with an injury that derailed what his season could have been. I still have my fears, though, because if this is a guy who you're like consistently benching in fourth quarters at big points because you just don't trust him to be able to do anything when he gets the ball, that's concerning to me. It's very concerning to me. But like I said, I very much believe in the defensive player that he's going to be. The offense does not have to be great for him to be worth this money, but it has to be better than it has been, I think, and it has to be more reflective of what it was in those first 9 games before he got hurt. And I'm just saying it's a lot to bet on those 9 games as far as his offensive game is concerned when the sample afterwards is so much larger. But dude's young. I bet he bounces back. But if he doesn't, and you're paying him that contract, it might make OKC's future look a little bit different. They obviously still won the championship with him managing to do that, but that does not mean that they can survive it again necessarily, especially if they end up encountering better teams, which I think there's a real chance they will do this year, because Denver got them to 7 games, and I think Denver is a considerably better team now than they were then. So I think they're going to face more of a challenge. Chet has to be better, and I'd say J-Dub also just has to be a little bit more consistent for them to be the great, dominant, borderline super team that they can be. I very much feel like this championship run that they had was similar to the 2021 Bucks, where there's like 2 or 3 losses on their record on the way to the championship, where I'm like, man, you guys just shot yourself in the foot. Like, it was your own doing why the Denver series was longer, why the Pacers series was longer, and hopefully for their sake, they can be a little bit less flawed this next coming round, because it's kind of harder to do it the second time now. Like, the common mantra in the NBA historically is like, after you get the first championship, the rest of them like come a lot easier. You have the experience under your belt and all that. It hasn't happened since 2018, and it hadn't even, repeat champions hadn't even been happening that frequently up until that point. The Miami Heat did it before those Warriors, and the Lakers did it before that. And then I think it's not, you don't have a repeat again until you're getting to the Lakers again at the top of the turn of the 20th century or 21st century or whatever the fuck, that stupid shit. But yeah, just a little worried. I don't know. Probably doesn't matter. I feel weird doing such a negatively skewed OKC Thunder video, because I'm always fighting against the shit that they're constantly getting. But I saw that contract and I was like, ooh, that might be a difficult reality to swallow if things do not age well. But here's hoping. All right, that is it. Shout out to Nick for editing this video, and goodbye.